All right, we're live. I got Anthony Lange here with me. The best way to do this, Anthony, is so everyone gets to know you, is for you to give us a little bit of an origin story, where you come from, how you got into martial arts, and where you are now. It's always a good story.
Okay, I'm going to start off. My brother, did boxing. He ended up being a tent boxer, but he was like 9 years older than me, so he was good fun to just muck around with as a kid. Then around about 11, I did some judo, and in fact, one of the kids there is one of my black belts now. So we used to wrestle at 11 on the mat, and his dad used to teach the class. Then I sort of got into the punk rock scene and was a lead singer in a couple of different bands. And by about 23, I had about 23 dead friends and thought, well, I'm probably pretty close to being one of the next on the list. So martial arts was one of the things that really helped me come out of a pretty dark place and pretty negative lifestyle. And so that's probably one of the reasons that I have always done it, and always encouraging people to do martial arts as a lifelong sort of thing. It really can shift you from one mind space to another mind space. So I did karate, got black belt in karate, did arnis, got a black belt in arnis, fought kickboxing. Then, I was reading John Will's stuff in Blitz and watching some very early videotapes. And when I was going for a kickboxing fight, I used to just bash up a couple of guys in the backyard. They'd go right and they'd bring their friends along. And so before I knew it, I had 10 guys banging on in the backyard. And then I started practicing some jiu-jitsu, and then I'd go down to John Will, and train with him as much as possible. Sean Kirkwood and John Simon just started up in this. And when I say just started up, that's 1993. Doing stuff, and I started a club in 94 and fought professionally 95, 96, 97, and coached people from then on. Yeah. And started a full-time academy in 99. So I'm celebrating about 21 years of being in the one spot, 24 years of 26 years of training people.
Yeah, now I talked to Elvis Sinisic the other day, and I'm pretty sure I saw you in his corner on one of those old videos that he shared.
Jeremy Horn, I was in that one.
Yeah. So that was cool. And one of your students, Sonny, he talked to Jeremy Horn the other day. When you fought, whereabouts did you fight, and what was it like fighting MMA and NHB back in those days?
Yeah, well, it was pretty interesting because it was banned in New South Wales, not like Queensland where everything's okay and everyone just. I don't. Queensland had the healthiest MMA scene, but I don't think there was any even jiu-jitsu up there when we first started. So the first type of mixed competitions were probably just some state title jiu-jitsu matches. Then we did some amateur ones in the ring just of ourselves. And a lot of the Japanese used to come to my club, film, and one guy would be a black belt in judo, one guy would be a shoot wrestler, one guy would be this or that. And they'd come to my club monthly. And then I got an invite to fight in Japan. And my first professional fight was with, it's a long time ago, but Noboru Asahi. And I was the lead person on that show. It was him and me. The undercard there was Yuki Nakai, Jean-Jacques Machado, not Sakuraba, the founder of Shuto, a couple of UFC veterans, Rumino Sato was on there, Leonard, who's a good wrestler in Australia, wrestled for you in the Ukraine as a kid. Eric Paulson was on that card, right near the bottom. But yeah.
He's amazing. I love Eric. That's definitely on my bucket list to go train with Eric. Now, was that the JJ Machado one? Was that where he fought Frank Trigg?
No. This he fought Yuki Nakai. Yuki Nakai is the guy who got his eye blinded just before he fought Hickson Gracie. Oh,
that would have been a great match. I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, that was a great match. Yeah. So yeah, that's 1995 or 96, somewhere around there. He'd been undefeated for 7 years, and Hoyler Gracie was the guy who finally defeated him a year or two after me, and they invited me straight back, and I fought on a Shudo card again over there. I fought on one of the first Val Judo cards in Australia. We're a chain link fence.
Have you been back to Japan since? Because I found that place intoxicating. I've been back a bunch of times.
Yeah, I've been there a few times.
Yeah.
Well, I fought Shamrock. I was in his corner when he fought Shamrock. Yeah, that's an audience of 70,000 there at Tokyo Dome. Amazing. It was on a K1 show.
So good. Now, a lot of those things that you learnt in the early days of MMA and Vale Tudo, do you transition a lot of that to jiu-jitsu now? Because a lot of people have this kind of like strange idea that MMA is not jiu-jitsu and jiu-jitsu is not MMA. But I kind of like, for me, my jiu-jitsu is MMA and jiu-jitsu is like a sport that I can play in to make my jiu-jitsu better for MMA and for self-defense. So I think they're the same thing, but there's definitely
it's funny. I agree. So a lot of my jiu-jitsu I can translate straight to MMA and no-gi, and that would be the theme in our club where it is easily transferable. But some of the modern jiu-jitsu is not as easily to transfer to no-gi. It's not as easy to transfer to MMA. So, leverage is leverage. It doesn't matter if it's straight wrestling or jiu-jitsu. It's still all leverage. Yeah. But some things are way more applicable to when someone's punching in the face.
Yeah, and I think it's easier to work back from no rules to rules.
Yes.
I think, you know, like to have more freedom and then less freedom. I feel like it makes sense. Just like it makes sense to do worst case scenario first. Like if you want to be good at self-defense, then the reason jiu-jitsu is so powerful is because we're working back from worst case scenario.
I agree.
Yes, we don't want to be on our back, but if we can, it'll be okay. You know, so you're working back from worst case scenario to best, which is one of the reasons why I love jiu-jitsu, because it's just, it really made sense to me in so many different ways. But your club does much the same as mine. You guys have Thai boxing and a whole bunch of other stuff there as well. And you guys have a really good reputation competing in all those different sports as well. How did you build a team that was able to do that? And what do you think are the benefits of that, or maybe even the weaknesses of that?
Yeah. Well, it's. I was really into kickboxing, and then I got really into jiu-jitsu. So often the club follows what you're into. Okay. So at some stages, it was more emphasis on jiu-jitsu. Sometimes it was huge emphasis on wrestling. Sometimes there's a huge emphasis on the blending all those skills together for the MMA and the mind changing and the fitness and all that sort of stuff. So, but these days I've got it very each segment. So you've got the Thai boxing group, sometimes mixed with the MMA group and spar at least 2 times a week. And some of the jiu-jitsu guys never do any of the MMA. And some of the MMA guys just fully concentrated on that and never put a gi on.
Yeah, look,
because
do you know what?
I have 5 classes a week.
Yeah, that's great, because what I find is the guys that are really into the boxing or the Thai boxing lift up the MMA guys striking, because you have these specialists in the room blending with everyone, and people develop these different styles. So then for self-defense, it's like, I've seen what a boxer looks like. I've seen what a Thai boxer looks like. I know how a jiu-jitsu guy behaves. I really like it, and it stops me from being bored, and probably shows a little bit of my obsession with all the combat sports as well. If anything, like I'm like a kid that's like, oh, there's a cool thing. On to the next one.
Exactly. I've always been like that too. I really enjoy all aspects of the martial arts, and it's a lifelong thing for me. Even though, and again, like if you're boxing, it doesn't take 6 months, and you can be in there, and you can have your first fight. And if you're training jiu-jitsu hard, you're at a very good fight level within 4 years. If you're training, 5 times a week or something like that, you're at a good level. And if you're training MMA, again, you're ready to fight in 3 years. And judo would be 3 years to be black belt level. Yeah. So then after 26 years, you have these things, and it's how you blend them, and that's really the joy of that, and seeing the advantages in under different scenarios, sort of thing, against different opponents.
Yep. Now, I always look up to all you guys that have done 26 years and whatnot, because I started as a young adult. Again, similar to you, I was transitioning from one area of my life to another, and it helped me a lot. And like everything that I've done in my life, I sink my teeth into things that I really enjoy. But what's your tip for somebody who's just starting, who may be like, I've just fallen into a love? How do you get to that 26-year mark? Because
don't ever think about that.
Because people struggle with that motivation. And I just it was so life-changing for me, and it was so life-changing for you. It would be wonderful if we could somehow give people advice on how to stick with it, and so it could have that same effect for them.
Yeah. And I don't know about that. People come in and out, and life circumstances change for everybody. But when they walk in that door, I'm fully focused on making one of our mottos is developing the individual, and that is really different. So some guys, you bring them in and you look, just calm down. You don't have to be so aggressive. You're missing the point. Your vision's too narrow. And some people like, stop being a soft prick. You can be a bit of a cunt. You're gonna hurt someone, So each individual, you've got to treat them differently, and how they react to that is hopefully you inspire each person, and they can carry it on. But basically, it's a team. I'm pretty sure young people come in, see someone, and go, I'm gonna get there. That's my mark, that person or that goal, and then it just keeps moving on.
Yeah, I think that's really solid. That's really solid advice. Now, with jiu-jitsu and everything that you do at your center, how do you then train the individual? How do you then pull that person aside and make sure that they get what's needed for you? What's your favorite technique for that?
Yeah, because it's different for every person. It really is different for every person, but you could categorize it, let's say, you got to either calm down, be more technical, or you just got to get a bit of mongrel in there. So if there was two, you just got to tell them that. And sometimes I'll just stand there and go, yell at them, or, hey, calm down. Or stop, you've lost it. For people that are too aggressive, stop, you've lost it. You're not doing any technique. You're overextending yourself, and that will get you into trouble.
Yeah, I do find when I pull people up, sometimes some people need the hard conversation. Some people need a softer conversation.
I have to tell you this one then. This is a good one. Elvis Sinisic, most of you guys know, he came to my club, and he's flamboyant as a when he was in his 20s or whatever, and he would hurt people, and I thought, I don't really want him in the club. I at one stage I said, look, anyone over 95 kilo, just do this, boom, and you don't need any more self-defense than that. And he said, no, I'm under 95. I didn't realize there was a whole bunch of guys lying to me for like a fair few years. But I gave him 5 questions. What use are you to the club? And if you hurt someone, should I have you in the club? So I thought this will get rid of him. And he did like a full scat page answer for every question, and they were super intelligent. I thought, oh, this guy is actually a really good guy, and he has the ability to change and adapt, and he did completely. He wanted to be a benefit to other people after that. Otherwise, it was just Elvis.
Yeah, and I love that too. There's nothing better than someone surprising me when I give them a hoop to jump through to stay on the team or do something to get to a fight, and then they jump through it. Like recently I had a guy not turn up for sparring, and I said, hey mate, I don't care what's happened in your life. Whatever you've done, you should have been at sparring. You're only 3 weeks out. You got 2 options: run 15 Ks before Monday, or I pull you from your fight. Make sure you show me on the GPS tracker. Boom. Wow. And I wasn't sure that he would do it because he thought I was crazy, because he had some family issues that he could have possibly done at the same time. But next thing you know, there he is on his GPS. He's done 17 kilometers, not 15. He put a cherry on top of it. And, so it's like, all right, sweet, you did the work. Stay in the fight. And, that hopefully then improves the team and teaches a lesson not only to that person to stay on task for their match regardless of what goes on, because your opponent doesn't care what's happened in your life.
No,
they knock you unconscious.
That's right. And that's the other motto I've got is real experience really counts. And I saw heaps of your fights. We were in the back rooms of so many shows all around Australia, and you have to develop, either for yourself if you're fighting or for your fighters, so many different formulas that it's hard to just categorize them as one or two, all encompassing formula.
Yeah, and you guys did really well. I always respected your team. I mean, you had Rob Hill. He was a nice guy, and he fought for you for a while, and I trained with him. And obviously, I've even had Sonny up to Townsville reffing some competitions and doing some seminars as well. So they both did really well. So you guys are still producing champions, which is wonderful. 26 years later after yourself fighting. What do you find is the number one important differentiator between the people that become champions and the people that don't?
First off, you've got to have a passion for what you're doing, or you just no way you're going to put the effort in to a fight camp unless you've got that passion. You've got to have self-discipline. If there's one thing, you've got to have self-discipline. You can't rely on anybody else. Your coach gives you good guidance, but it comes down to your own backbone, really.
Yeah. Look, I didn't even have a coach most of the time. I couldn't. It was amazing. I was begging, can you come on? I need a grappling coach for this. I need, I couldn't beg people to give me the support, they'd had no support from their coaches in the past. So I didn't. So, I eventually became self-coached. So now, as a result of that, I make sure my guys get like a ridiculous amount of support. I'm still paying for cars and stuff like I was for my team when I was fighting. Now I pay for my amateurs, and look after them as best I can, because I don't want them to go through that experience of I was sitting back there for my very first fight, watching people wrap their hands, not knowing what they were doing. They're rubbing Vaseline over themselves, and I'm like, are they allowed to do that? What's going on here?
I was headlining the card. I know exactly what you mean. I'm in Japan headlining the card, and I didn't have anyone in my corner.
Yeah. And it's first fight, I think I rocked up like a ridiculous. I'm sitting in this change room, just watching what's going on, you know, like, and it was only because of my military training that I just treated it like a war mission, you know, like, okay, I've got my mission, I wrote myself a set of orders, which is hilarious, you know, like worst case scenarios. And now I make my guys do that. It's like, okay, if you're going to fight, you know, like, I want you to write down, like, what's your side control game? What's your half guard game? And I make sure that they write it out and play out the fight in their own head, because obviously
training schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, what training schedule is going to be, and stick to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. So that's super cool. Now, let's go back, because obviously we'll go back a couple of steps. I love martial arts as a development tool.
Yeah.
What's something that you would tell someone now who might be watching this today and they're thinking about coming down to yours or my club, but they're nervous about coming down?
It is very scary to walk into a new school. Even like, you know, I've walked into American Top Team and Mendez Brothers and John Jark's club and Hegan's club, and it's a scary thing. So and Thai boxing schools, you know, Tiger and all those ones, you know, I've been all around the world walking into clubs, and it's scary at any stage. But hopefully there's a welcoming attitude there, and just what can I say? It's you know, you got to feel comfortable in your environment, and you got to feel pushed and pressured, not over your limit, but just to your limit. So basically, it can change your life, and you've got to do most of the work to get that to happen. You know, take the guide.
Yeah, my favorite thing is, like, if you can't accept the suffering of martial arts, you'll never accept the benefits. And the more you suffer, the more you'll benefit. You know?
Right. I didn't notice I was suffering a lot of the time, and you know, until I walk around now. But no, I didn't even notice I was suffering. I'm having a good time, and then you. But yes, there's a pain involved.
Maybe you have a better hip escape out of knee rides than I ever did.
I tell you, some of those guys, when you're dealing with 100-kilo guys, they're pretty keen on doing my ribs or my ligaments in my ribs. So yes, I did develop a fairly good hip escape.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, it's great advice. They do just need to get into it. Most people are super welcoming, and you can always choose your level of commitment too. You know, like, if you want to do the first class and you don't want to do the live rolling, just go, I might just watch tonight, and just watch. And
I think I might be like you as well. I didn't accept, like, for a lot, especially at the start, and I didn't realize that people sort of did things as a hobby. I was always like, this is it, I'm in there. And why aren't you doing that? You know, so it's nearly like, if your coach nearly expects that, people, that's I think how greatness is and champions are created, that the minimum level seems to be higher than what some schools would expect at a high level.
Yeah.
And I just expect that. I don't even realize that I'm expecting that until people have pointed out, you know, it's pretty intense what you expect them to do.
Yeah. I have varying levels of degrees of commitment for how long people have come and how far that they want to take it as well. You know, I definitely.
No, I do now. I've understood slowly.
Well, it's funny because sometimes people really surprise me. They start off really soft, and just slowly over time they get hardened because they didn't have the same life experiences as me growing up. You know, so they're in a completely different spot. But I do think martial arts has a wonderful way of cooking people into very confident, hardened individuals that can take on life's challenges a little bit better.
I agree 100%. I've got guys like that, and I didn't notice them, and I'd think, well, this guy's, you know, I got no hope for this guy, you know. And then they never cease to, you know, I stopped doing that after a while, because often they end up being like the best guys, and I wish I'd taped the matches where I used to win against them, because they're become unbelievably good, and they're not the guys you expect often. I would say about 70% of the guys that are the top level guys are not the guys that when they walk in the door, I would go, yeah, he's going to be a champ. That's not what it is.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I love training people that because the one thing that I reckon separates those champions is the attitude. I love getting those guys, but in saying that, I didn't necessarily make those guys tough. You know,
it's a club that does make them tough. I because it might not be you or me, but it's the rest of the members in the academy that really change them.
Yeah. I do love seeing someone go from meek to tough, though. It's always it's always such a fun thing to do. Anthony, I really love chatting with you today. It's good. I'll have to come down to Sydney for a visit again soon.
As always, welcome.
Hopefully the borders stay open for a little bit longer.
I hope so.
And you do have a great club. So if anybody's down in Sydney, make sure you look up Lange's Martial Arts for some good training.
Thank you for the plug, Ian.
Pleasure, mate.
All right. See you.